Hi, my name is Felix Matos Rodríguez, and I am the Chancellor of the City University of New York. People who know me call me Felo, and this is my conversation space on CUNY TV, Café con Felo. Bienvenidos a Café con Felo. Today, I am honored to welcome someone whose work is closely related to the work of the City University of New York, the Chancellor of the New York City Public Schools, Kamar Samos. Welcome, Chancellor Samos.
Thank you for having me.
Chancellor Samos, who assumed the role in January of 2026, is a three-time CUNY graduate. He received his first bachelor's degree in business administration and then his master's of science in educational leadership from Baruch College, and later his master's in childhood education from Lehman College in the Bronx. He began his career in education through the NYC Teaching Fellows Program, after seeing an ad for this program that CUNY is proud to be a part of and has trained over 15,000 teachers in New York City since 2020. Among his many achievements in the New York City public school system, Kamar helped implement the NYC Reads program, which aims to improve literacy instruction by relying on the science of reading. He also has worked on the initiatives related to the integration and culturally responsible educational practices. This is Café con Felo, so the first question I always ask is, are you a coffee drinker? And if so, how many cups and how do you take your coffee?
Oh, wow, that is an interesting question because prior to this job, I would only have 1 cup of coffee every day. I'd have it in the morning. It's like a little latte. And then since the job, since January, now I have 2 cups. I have another one, which I just had in the afternoon.
to get going for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And is it the famously known Jamaican coffee that you drink, or is it something else?
It's something else. You're so right. Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee is amazing. I don't have it enough. But no, I do an espresso.
Okay, good enough, right? But great to have you on the show. I think it'll be great to give the audience a little bit of sense of your journey, right? Yeah. I mean, how does a very bright kid from Jamaica ends up leading the largest public school system in the United States?
Yeah, it's quite fascinating. Even when I look at it, sometimes I can't believe it myself. I came here 15, 16 years old. I went right into Bronx community at first because I was so young. My mom said, go to the closest college close to you. We lived in the Bronx. And I went there for a couple of years, and I went to Baruch. One of the things she said was, you're good at math, so go do accounting. Yep. And so I was studying accounting at Baruch and absolutely hated it, but then left. And the great thing is, my mom paid for me to go to Baruch out of pocket. And I think, other than life itself, that's one of the best gifts she ever gave me because I graduated without any debt and started to work in finance and accounting and I was working for an advertising agency at first. And then I said to myself, look, if I can work for a sports agency and I probably might like accounting. So I went and worked for the National Basketball Association. Still didn't like it.
Oh.
And so I'm, on the train one day going home. And I remember I saw an ad that said, you remember your first grade teacher's name. Who will remember yours? And, I'm tired and I'm like really thinking about it, and I had always wanted to be a teacher at some point, but that night I went home. I'm a notorious procrastinator, but that night I went home, I did the application, and I submitted it the same night, and 6 months later I was in a classroom.
In this amazing program that, as I mentioned before, about 15,000, and it's one of the ways that I know that both you and I are hoping that we can attract a whole new generation of teachers, to be able to meet the shortage of teachers that we have, and to bring people that might have a similar background like yours, that have been doing other things but have that vocation to do that.
fabulous program. We have 1,200 of them this year. I actually just spoke to them on my way here.
Okay.
Yeah, 1,200 of them, and 70% of them identify as a person of color. And our biggest shortage areas are math, special education, multilingual, like all of those licenses. This is one of our main pathways that we can use to get folks into the teaching profession, and hopefully they'll stay, and hopefully they'll become chancellor. You never know.
Well, not anytime soon, right?
Yeah. They gotta teach first.
So if we have folks that are watching the program who are not necessarily thrilled with some of the things that they're doing now, right? And they particularly have some of that skill set, particularly sort of in math and some of those areas, please know, right, that there is this entire path that would train you, that would give you hands-on experience to do this, right?
Yep. Not only that, but you will get access to a quality CUNY education. You will get access to young people that will change your life as much as you will change theirs, and it is an absolutely rewarding career. And New York City, no better place to live, no better place to teach young people, no better place to really connect, help folks connect across difference in a truly diverse city.
And I know that, I miss my teaching days in the current role that I have. And I know sometimes when you teach, you wonder, am I really reaching the students, right? And the one thing that I tell everybody is that you do in more ways than you think of. Even when you're thinking that you're not connecting, there's a couple of students there who are digesting what the material, they're digesting the lessons, the role modeling that you're doing, and that changes lives.
Yeah, 100%. I have so many kids who come up to me. I could be I was at a bowling lane the other day, and a kid comes up to me and says, you were my principal, and you said this to me. Or when I was a teacher, I see kids come up to me all the time. You just don't know, how those seeds that you've planted have blossomed. And it's not always about the content that you taught them.
Absolutely.
Lots about the connection that you made, the fact that they know that you cared about them. I think that's the number one thing that I've learned.
And you help them in a pivotal moment in their lives, and you don't know it, but they're going through it. So you taught elementary school for a while. You became a principal. You became a superintendent. Now the chancellor. I think that folks in the audience probably know what the teacher does. They probably know what the principal does, right? But I think superintendent is one of those terms that people don't really understand. What is the role, and can you speak about that and about some of the things when you did that you feel particularly proud of, or that maybe are things that you're now sort of continuing in your role as chancellor?
Great question. So, first of all, I've never met a job in NYC public schools that I didn't love. I loved being a teacher. I loved being a principal. And absolutely love being a superintendent. When you're a superintendent, you're able to see the impact across schools, right? You may not have the same impact on young people and kids, but when you look at an entire district and you're thinking about how to support a community, I think there are wonderful things there. As superintendent, one of the last things we did was to implement New York City Reads.
Okay.
And New York City Reads focused on the science of reading. And District 3, where I was in it was in the same area as Columbia University, and the TC work was big in our district, but that wasn't really focused on the science of reading. And so transitioning an entire district to a new curriculum, and to making sure that especially our kindergarten and to second grade was really doing things based on the science of reading was actually quite difficult, because that wasn't necessarily the culture. And so we had to engage with parents, we had to engage with our teachers, we had to provide the appropriate coaching. And that was over a runway of at least a year before beginning and implementation. And I think, watching that and seeing the impact of that and seeing the outcomes for kids, seeing that we haven't even seen on a test yet, right? We started to see some of it, but like when the kids in first, second grade or kindergarten start taking these tests, you're gonna see significant, even more improvement than we've seen so far.
And let's take advantage of having you here and without getting too geeky, right?
Okay.
Because I can see somebody, listening to the show going like, so they're doing science of reading, but what were they doing before, right? What were they teaching before? And I think sometimes people don't get the nuances, right, about and why this is such an important, and it's still part of a journey, as you said. So can you give a little bit of a sense to folks about what is exactly different, for the layperson?
Yeah. So, when you think about teaching reading and, you think about, does a kid know how to decode the word, right? Does a kid know how to look at a word and break it down and decode it? And then do they understand the meaning of the word, right? And so you have to have both of those things. And so what we saw was that with what was called balanced literacy, a lot of times there was this, folks would focus on the comprehension without focusing on whether our kids could actually decode. There is a percentage of kids that you don't have to teach explicitly how to decode words, maybe, but there is a much bigger percentage that you must teach explicitly. Here, these are your letter sounds. This is what these blends create, right? And we weren't doing that effectively for quite some time in our city. And so what we're doing now is ensuring that in every school there is what we're saying is phonics-based instruction. And that phonics-based instruction, we are building on fluency so that a child can get the necessary repetition at bats, and so that the comprehension and vocabulary can be built. Because if you're spending so much time trying to decode the word, the energy is not left for you to be able to comprehend what you're doing. And so we're really focused on that and making sure that our young people have a good understanding.
And this is where we're partners, right? Because you're doing that in your district, and now we're doing this at the entire system. But on my end, I need to train the teachers who are going to be ready to go in, right, and know the science of reading and know how to apply it to the different ages to be able to be effective. So it's not just work on your end; it's been work, and we are delighted to be partners in that important initiative. And full circle, right? Those students are going to be, most of them, CUNY students, and they're going to be better prepared and ready to come to college and take advantage of all the things that we have to offer. So it's a full circle there.
I love that. What you just pointed out, because first of all, when I did elementary school education, I do not remember explicitly being taught how to teach a child to read. Right, and I think that is a huge difference now in our teacher preparation program. Like that explicit teaching is taking place, and look, New York needs to continue to be the engine of social mobility in our city. And if we're teaching our most vulnerable kids, and all kids, how to strong literacy skills, just like it is today, as it was in 1964 or 1863 or 1760 or 1619. The most important thing you can do for a young person who is vulnerable is teaching them how to read and getting them ready for at 12th grade that they'll get an acceptance letter to a CUNY school. That is an amazing thing in this city, because every time I look at these college index or indices, CUNY schools, SUNY schools rank very high. Baruch, ranks probably the highest when it comes to social mobility. And that's what I think our city is about. And if you and I can stay in this game and create more and more opportunities, there's nothing that we could do better.
And it's going to have an impact in the quality of life of all New Yorkers.
100%.
Which is what you and I strive to do in our different different roles.
And certainly our mayor, that's a big part of what his message is.
And completely tied up to affordability
100%.
and also success
Yes.
of those
100%.
So another thing we've been working very closely is dual enrollment and dual degree and programs in which students take college courses in high school or middle school. Maybe some of them can complete even an associate's degree. We have the Future Ready work in terms of getting them ready for field and exposed to careers of demand. Tell me a little bit about your sense about that work.
Yeah, look, first of all, I have a personal connection with this. The other day, my son comes home earlier this year and goes, yeah, I'm going to take a course at, John Jay. And I was like, wait, what? And he said, yeah, I saw this. He's an 11th grader. And he said, I saw this at school. And, it really struck me when in the 90s, like, we didn't have that kind of, those kind of opportunities. And it's not as though I was saying to him, hey, you need to go do this, you need to do that. And so this idea of college now courses and being able to access that in 11th grade as a part of the culture of what it means to be in a high school in New York City is absolutely phenomenal. And so across our city, across our districts, we and our superintendents are really trying to make sure that we are thinking about what we are calling the portrait of a graduate and the state level, right? So that we're thinking differently about what it means to be a New York City graduate. And a big part of that is our Future Ready work, our College Now courses. And because this network that we have in our city for higher education, I know so many people are saying, oh, is a college education important anymore? I absolutely think it is, and I absolutely think we are giving so many kids access to that work, and I'm excited to continue.
Well, and that was also I was telling to a group yesterday, going back to the mayor and affordability, that the folks who think that the higher ed debt issue, whatever, that is the media talking about the expensive schools.
That's right.
There is not a debt issue if you're coming from CUNY.
No.
77% without any debt, but the perception.
77%?
Yes.
Wow.
Debt free, right?
Yeah.
But everybody's reading what the debt of other people are,
right.
and they are internalizing.
That's right.
That they're not, interested, or they're not going to be able to, and that is something that we fight every day, and we fight it with your partnership in your schools. And the fact, the more that they see themselves belonging in a university and comfortable, I mean, all the data.
Yeah.
Your graduation rates improve,
right.
So do the ones in CUNY, retention, all the things that we both wake up every morning hoping to do on behalf of our kids.
Yeah, and I tell you, it's about access, right? Because for us, access to even something like a park, and like really making sure you go to Central Park, or make sure you take use of, you go to the cultural institutions, like as high schoolers, as making that be a part of them, so that they feel, okay, being a lifelong learner, getting ready to go to college, like these are all parts of the culture in New York City public schools that we have to make sure that we do, so that our kids are prepared not only in academically, but even confidence-wise.
Absolutely.
Right.
The social capital for them to feel totally, to actually take advantage of all the great things the city has to offer.
100%.
I mean, people live in other places that they don't have access to that.
That's right.
We do. And
That's
we
right.
need to make sure that they are taking advantage of all of that. Yeah. One of the things when I said that you were going to be in the show, I know that one of the daunting tasks is that it's a big responsibility with a lot of visits and things that take your time. Any recent announcement that you've made that you feel that is something particularly exciting that you want to use the time to let people know about?
Yeah, so I have a couple actually.
Okay, good.
Number one, I think it was really good that we were able to extend the class size mandate from the state that we have. It gives us a sustainable way to continue to recruit teachers. Yes. And we've invested $1.5 billion in our capital. So that's been great. Most recently, the mayor and I spoke at Rikers Island, where I am now, I met a young man there who, his name is Elijah Smith, who really set an example of mentorship for the folks in his living area. It created a kind of learning culture there, and it really inspired me to create a mentorship program for our kids and our young people on Rikers Island. So I'm going to be every other month going there with a group of mentors to really make sure that when many of those kids leave, they have such a great spirit while they're there, but now when they get back home, sometimes they don't. Being in this environment, it changes that, and so we want to make sure that we try to see if we can make some connections with them so that they can get jobs more quickly and so on. So that's something I'm super excited about doing. And today, actually, like I said, we worked with I spoke to fellows, and we have 1,200 fellows now that are going to be in schools, and so a lot more to come, but I'm excited about those things.
Well, this space is always open for you to come and
cool.
We do so many things together, but we do need to take a short break. When we come back, we'll get some great questions, one from a CUNY student and one from a professor of the School of Education at Hunter College. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Café con Felo. We're here today with the New York City Public Schools Chancellor Kamar Samuels. Now, let's turn to questions from our students and staff at the School of Education at Hunter College. I think the first question is going to come from Ella.
Chancellor, in March you called expanding literacy to high school the next stage of NYC Reads. During my clinical training at a New York City high school, I observed one literacy specialist serving hundreds of students reading below grade level. What does next stage actually mean in terms of staffing, funding, and timeline?
Yeah, such a great question. That's a really, really good question. I think, when it comes to high school, it's not only important to have a great curriculum, but we have to make sure that we put in what we're calling multi-tiered system of supports, our MTSS structures, which ensures that our young people are getting what they need when they need it. So, if you are off track and you need an intervention, you shouldn't be waiting for it. She's absolutely correct. One intervention is to come and serve. We need to make sure that we're creating within the day small groups so that those interventions can take place and you're getting exactly what you need based on the screener results that we do, right? Because we do our screeners 3 times per year, and a screener is similar to going to the doctor and you get your blood pressure taken, you get weighed. If somebody wasn't doing that, you'd wonder what kind of doctor is this? Yep. Same thing happens in our schools, but what we are very clear about now is that we have prescribed research-based interventions that we are doing, and now many teachers are trained, not just the specialists, to be able to give that right just-in-time intervention for kids. So we're not necessarily reliant on individual reading specialists anymore. Everyone has to be a literacy teacher, and everyone has to try to get trained, and you have to put the structure in place and work with the principal to program the school in a way that you're doing a 6-week cycle of these interventions. You're going back and you're progress monitoring to make sure that it's the right intervention and it's having an impact. And so that's what we'll be doing. When I say it's a new piece of this literacy journey, that's really what I want to focus on, especially in our...
It's a lot more organic, and that's where the training becomes key. It's not just 1 or 2 people who are the experts, and everybody's really behind and making sure you catch any sign.
That's right.
And then be able to leverage all the supports and things in the system.
Absolutely. You're giving the right diagnostics and you're putting the right research-based interventions in place.
Excellent. So I think we have now a professor. I think Rosa has the name question.
What do you see as the single biggest structural barrier to moving faster and at real scale for kids who need the most support? And how can the research and academic community be a genuine partner in breaking through that barrier rather than just studying it from the outside?
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Yeah, well, was that?
Another show by itself.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think, I honestly think one of them is that we're getting the cracks on. So look, I would say very clearly, when we talk about teachers being now getting taught the science of reading and so on, one of the things I want to focus on is math, specifically elementary school math. And one of the biggest barriers we see there is that there's a lot of math phobia. There's a lot of math content knowledge that I would say is lacking in elementary school. I mean, if you talk to most elementary school teachers, they will tell you, I would much rather teach literacy, right?
Yep.
And so we have to get to to make sure that we're now teaching math in our elementary schools, but also in the elementary school programs too, the teacher programs, making sure that there's like good solid math content that folks are coming out with, and how to teach math. And because honestly, the some of the same philosophies in literacy really transcend to math as well.
Yep.
Like if you think about conceptual understanding, that's like almost like comprehension.
Yeah.
If you think about fluency in math, like you're gonna need to be fluent to solve quadratic equations. You're gonna need to factor quickly and so on, and be nimble. And so I think that that math content knowledge is one of the biggest barriers, and I think that our colleagues in higher ed can help in the same way that we've done for literacy.
And we have found how much that fear of math,
Yep.
or that lack of teaching math appropriately, becomes the barrier, because then
Absolutely.
first the kids self-select,
Yes.
and they eliminate a whole range of possibilities in life
Yeah.
that depend on some kind of math knowledge, or what they think is
100%.
math knowledge, right? So from the get-go, they're limiting what the world can provide for them.
That's
And
exactly.
you and I know, because, for example, as we try to expand some of the college level courses in high school and middle school, if they don't have the math background for some of those things, you can teach
That's
a
right.
college level course
That's right.
there, right?
That's
So
right.
as we try to actually expand access,
Yes.
or who participates, we have found out that gap in math early
Right.
has a domino effect
Right.
in some of the things that we're trying to do. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that point. to
Absolutely. Even when you think about Algebra 1, it becomes the gatekeeper for
So many
so many things. And we have a culture in which our parents and folks will say, you know what, I'm not a math person, and that like seeps into the minds of our young people. And we need to stop that, and we need to be able to say, look, everybody can be a math person, and and so it will take like changing our culture, and that's why I say I want to start a math revolution in our city, where we're not saying that. We need to really ensure that we understand that when our kids feel more confident about math, when they feel that they want to engage in the content, it's more likely that they will open so many paths, and just like what you said.
So we're going to end with the math revolution,
That's absolutely right.
And we'll come back and see how the revolution is going in a future program.
And the revolution will be televised right here.
Right here. So, but thank you, Kamar. Thank you for sharing
you.
your story with us today. Thank you for sharing your vision about some of the key things, some of the key drivers that you're trying to advance in your role as chancellor. A vital institution to the well-being of our city, and it's great that it's in your hands, and we look forward to partnering with you for years to come.
Thank you, sir.
Now, I hope that all of you have enjoyed the conversation. That's all the time we have, so please don't forget to watch Café con Felo, which airs Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. right here on CUNY TV. Saludos and take care.